Today, we're going to dive into something really cool, a framework that completely flips the script on how we think about education. It's called the Novacene Learner, and it's all built around this one central, powerful idea, a curriculum of becoming.
I mean, think about it. Every class you've probably ever taken, right? It almost always kicks off with a list of things to memorize. Facts, dates, formulas, the what. But this whole framework asks us to just hit pause, to consider a totally different starting line. And it does that by posing this really fundamental question.
What if we started not with the content, but with the person? Not with what we're supposed to know, but with who we hope to become? Honestly, that single shift right there is the entire foundation of this whole philosophy.
So you might be wondering, how do you even build a curriculum around becoming? Well, you start with what the framework calls the 9 learner traits. And here's the crucial part. These aren't just, some add-on or a special topic for 1 week out of the year. No, they're the very soil, the ground from which everything else is meant to grow.
So there are 9 of them, 9 core traits. And they're described as these inner patterns that shape how a student moves through the world, how they listen, how they question, how they care, and ultimately, how they act. What's really interesting is that they're defined through verse, which makes them feel less like a corporate checklist and way more like a way of being.
Just listen to how the framework defines a trait like curiosity. It's not just asking questions. It's described as a wonder stitched into the seams of waking thoughts. It's about a hunger for questions that last. It's a completely different way of orienting yourself to the world around you.
And check out how they frame resilience. It's not about just being tough or burying your emotions. It's described as a quiet, steady burning will, a strength you draw from experience, from wearing your scars not as a disguise, but as the shape where wisdom lies. This is about learning to actually grow through challenges, not just get through them. And one more. Let's look at kindness. In this framework, it gets totally reframed. It's not a weakness, it's a soft rebellion in a hardened place. It's a form of quiet courage. It's about seeing the ache behind someone's smile and actively choosing to try and make things whole.
So here they are, the whole set. Curiosity, kindness, critical thinking, resilience, awareness, communication, responsibility, action, and collaboration. In this model, every single math problem, every history lesson, every single group project becomes a field for practicing these exact traits.
Okay, so how do you organize all of this, these traits, and the traditional subjects we all know? Let's get into the structure, which is visualized as a learning mandala. And that metaphor is so key here, because it tells us that learning isn't a straight line. It's interconnected, it circles back on itself, and it grows from the center outward.
It's actually beautifully simple when you break it down. Right at the very heart of everything, you have the learner, the individual. Wrapped around them, those 9 traits we just talked about, that's the foundation of their being. And then radiating out from that core are the ways of knowing, which is how all the academic subjects are structured.
So instead of these siloed subjects like math over here and English way over there, this framework groups them into 5 broad interdisciplinary perspectives. The whole idea is to explore big, real-world questions from a bunch of different angles. It encourages learning that spirals and connects instead of being chopped up into separate little boxes.
And here they are. You've got the expressive self, which combines arts and language. Then there's the human story, which blends history with global perspectives. Look at the knowing world. It unites science, math, and even AI ethics. Then you've got the design world for tech and design, and the living body, which brings together PE, dance, and drama. And you'll notice each one has a purpose, a guiding quote that really gives it meaning.
Okay, so that's the theory. It all sounds great, right? But what does this actually look like for a student on a Tuesday morning? Well, it looks like moving from these abstract ideas and huge questions to creating something real, something tangible you can hold or see. The whole thing is really driven by project-based learning. Students aren't just filling out worksheets. They're digging into big, authentic problems, a lot of times connected to global goals. They are actively building things, performing, designing, turning good intentions into real, meaningful action.
And these are the kinds of questions that fuel the work. They're huge, right? They're complex, and they definitely don't have one right answer in the back of a textbook. A question like, how can design restore ecosystems, immediately forces you to pull from science, technology, ethics, art. It demands critical thinking, collaboration, and of course, action.
So, let's bring this all together. Why does a model like this, a curriculum of becoming, matter so much right now?
Well, because in a world that's getting more and more complex and uncertain every day, just knowing a bunch of facts isn't going to cut it anymore. I love this distinction. Focusing on traits like kindness and awareness isn't soft. It actually requires a huge amount of intellectual and emotional discipline. It's all about combining deep, critical thinking with deep compassion. That's soulful rigor.
Ultimately, this isn't about preparing kids for the next exam. It's about preparing them for life, for citizenship, for empathy, for leadership. It's about equipping them not just with the skills they need to succeed, but with a reason to, a guiding sense of purpose.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The Novacene framework is basically an invitation to completely reimagine what school can be. Not just a place you go to know things, but a space where you are actively, intentionally, and thoughtfully supported in the lifelong project of becoming who you are.